Hi, I am Michelle van Ono Green Thompson, the editor of Those Who Travel Meet Themselves. Join us on this journey as we talk to different brown South Africans who've used travel to impact their lives. Those Who Travel Meet Themselves, and today we are in conversation with the infamous LERATO.
Hi, I'm LERATO, the author of Vagabond, Wandering Through Africa on Faith.
Fantastic. LERATO, I'm so glad that we could have you here so we can have this conversation, which I've been dying to have. As you said, you are the author of Vagabond, and I would like you've written a really compelling, and for those who haven't seen it, that's the book. You've written a really compelling, fun, interesting, and very solo travel orientated book. And the best part is it's by a Black female. And as the years have moved along, 26 years from democracy, a lot more Black women are traveling. And I think your book was a much needed breath of fresh air, because there are all these things we want to talk about, but might not be necessarily talking about them. So I would love if you could please share with us just a little bit more behind who you are. So, what are your passions? What got you to write Vagabond? So, if you can just take us from there.
My passions are writing, storytelling, but primarily in the written form, Africa, travel and tourism, art and culture, heritage and history. And all these things in my life are rooted in my deep, deep love for Africa. So I take Africa as the anchor and use it as the vehicle through which I express all these different passions of mine. Some as my professional life. I'm a writer. I was a writer before I started traveling, but once I started traveling, I made it so that I can travel to write and write to travel. And then I'm also a travel curator now. So it's a way for me to keep going to the places that I love over and over again, but experiencing them differently. So I really, really love Egypt. I've never been able to recover from Egypt, and I could go to Egypt once every 3 months, and a few other places. So I was like, if I curate travel experiences there, I definitely have to go back once or twice a year, right? So I just keep, yeah. So I really just keep finding ways to keep experiencing Africa as a destination, to keep experiencing it at the home, and to also keep sharing it. Like you mentioned, there's so many Black women traveling right now. And it's really fun because travel is freedom. Travel is the ultimate freedom. You have the freedom to say, that's it. I'm not doing anything else right now except hopping on a plane and going to a specific place. So it's really great to see that there's so many people, women, Black women in particular, traveling, wanting to experience the joy of living, the leisure in living, the fun of living. For me, it really is a statement to freedom, and it's very heavy. When in December, I was at the Seychelles and I went snorkeling there, and it was it's still the most beautiful place where I've ever snorkeled.
Yeah.
And it was just there swimming in the ocean, just playing in the sea. I thought to myself, wow, my grandmother has never experienced this, and she so she'll never experience it. And I also knew my grandmother's mom and my great great. I knew 3 generations of and I thought to myself, wow, these people who used to work as kitchen staff or just doing random manual labors, people who are dispossessed from their land, and whose relationship with traveling to some extent was to flee, flee, go join the struggle. Flee, go study,
Yeah.
the tyranny of being Black at home. It wasn't just about let me go explore the world and find my place in the world and let the world be the vehicle that tells the story of my life. So
Absolutely.
in that moment, I swear it sounds very superficial when you say to people, I definitely travel because it's my statement of my personal freedom. to me, it is because I know so well the memory of the generations I come from is still so fresh. It's still here. You know, some of them are still here. And
Really?
I remember so much that they were denied. And I look
Yeah.
at what freedom has given me. And I
Yeah.
want to experience my freedom and celebrate it in as many ways as possible. But the freedom in particular to know the world is the one that I hold in the highest of esteem.
Absolutely. You know, you touch on a very valid point when you say it's still very fresh because I was chatting to my cousin who was born in 1975, and she said to me, so I grew up in a little village called Ingogo in KwaZulu Natal. It's on the periphery between KwaZulu Natal, Northern Natal, and Mpumalanga. So essentially, what she was saying was that when they went to school, my grandmother had taught them that when they come out from school, they must take out their white shirts. So they must
Mm.
take out the white shirt from underneath and walk into the grass, not on the side of the road. So that if a farmer were to stop, they can lie flat in the grass and be hidden by the grass so that they don't become child labor. Because if you lived on a farm, you couldn't own a farm, and therefore some people in the family had to work the farm. So you
Yeah.
still have to would be living within this day and age within your family if you come from this type of setup who will not necessarily ever know the privileges that you have, and who would have been unable to go to school and had to work the farm on behalf of the family. So it's a sacrifice that they would have had to take. So when you say that, you're very right because she said even at school, one of their curriculum lessons was who omtier te mark. So how to
Yeah.
make tea.
Like, you know,
Like the
this
ultimate
that's
preparation for being domestic worker.
I can't believe this. And I think, you know what, the thing that like such a mind fuck to me about this is that it's so real. You know, it is really, really that real. There are still people who who are working in this new South Africa. And that is the essence of their primary education. That's what their education conditioned them to be. That's what society built them. Everything around them said to them, "Oh, actually, you're a drawer of wood, and what you know that black people must be drawers of water and hewers of wood," or whatever the saying is, that we're
Yeah.
just made to serve whiteness. And it's such a reality about South Africa. Even as a travel destination. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I travel South Africa, but sometimes I really struggle traveling around South Africa. So
Yeah.
um, in particular, say Western Cape, but it
Yeah.
happens where you go when you start experiencing South Africa as a destination. Black people at work, white people at leisure.
Mm-hmm.
You know
I
what I
know.
mean?
I know
But it's
exactly what you.
comfortable, yo. So,
Joburg, Joburg Country Club, right?
mm,
And I was at a function, and when I looked around the room, I was the only person who wasn't white in the room, right? And who was attending the function.
yeah,
And it dawned on me because the lady, you know how they'll have a waitress between two tables to
yeah,
pick up drinks orders. And she
yeah.
was staring at me and I caught her eye, right? So we looked at each other and then she winked at me and I was like, you know, it was almost like she was saying bangene. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. And those things happen, hey? Those things happen, you know. And but there's also that nice, there's that just that tenderness that we have among with each other as people, and I think that's also nice because when Vagabond came out, I used to go um to bookshops. Only COVID stopped me, right? I go to bookshops. I want to see if they're stocked, if they're stocking up, where it's placed. Most importantly, I'm just like, put it where everyone is going to see it. Do not put it at the back. Do not hide it under some Africana section with travel guide. This is not a travel guide.
No,
Um, and when I started, but I remember even when the book came out, I was just going because I wanted to see what it's like as a product, you know, there amongst other books. And whenever I told people that it's my book, people who work at bookshops, they'd be like, "What? You wrote it? Oh my God, say no more." In fact, before I even asked them to put it down, they'd be like, "What? It's yours, Monagokai. Like, you did it and you went there. It's for all of us. It's coming to sit right here where we can all sit. And when people come here, I'm going to tell them, you must buy this book, you must buy this book." You know, so it also has those elements of just
Wonderful, right?
yeah.
It's like it's such a nice celebration. It's like it's hard to explain, but it's such an important thing for it to take place and for it to happen because it's it feels like finally being able to write history the way you want to write history.
Yes, it
And
really
that,
isn't.
yeah.
It's there's so the thing with writing Africa in particular is that Africa has always been written about. You know, it's always been written about. But it was Vasco da Gama, all people, anthropologists who are coming here, being very curious, going to Timbuktu, or tomb raiders going to, they call themselves archaeologists, but we know they're tomb raiders, going to Egypt and just getting artifacts from the graves of the ancient Egyptians. And the problem is that if something is not, I find that nothing compels anyone, nothing compels the rest of the world to treat Africa with dignity and humanity. And in fact, it is as if these people are socialized to not see our humanity, to not see our, to not recognize us, that they will go to Africa and they will travel. And I read these travel experiences and I think to myself, were you in a different continent? Am I insisting, am I creating an alternate reality with how I write Africa where I insist that this world exists, but maybe it doesn't, because how can 101 other people come here and about three things and three things end up to be the least inconsequential? So for instance, people are always saying, oh, it's so hard to travel around Africa because of border patrol, because of immigration. But people also go to Germany when they're black and they don't have ease of movement, you know. People go to Australia and they're stopped. People are racially profiled. And so in a sense, it says to me, particularly as a conversation between us as Africans, it says we need to stop defining how we experience this continent the same way that the rest of the world defines the African experience, you know. And most importantly, for me, tourism is it's not just about a passion. It's not just about a passion. It's not just about traveling and experiencing. It's an economic and a political statement as well, and it is what it is, right? I reject the idea that Paris is the place that I should aspire to go to without knowing, purely from marketing, purely from popular culture, purely from mass media, that I must go to Paris or New York. I can dream about those, but I can't dream about Maputo, or I can't dream about Nairobi as destinations. And yet, for me, to go to Nairobi and to Maputo do not have the same outcome as going to New York and Paris. They have a greater outcome because as a Black person, I get to relate, I get to extend how I relate to my Blackness and my Africanness by experiencing it in a different social context. Secondly, my money goes from my pocket into the hands of another African. And that is also very important because tourism supports so many jobs, particularly informally, that I take heart in knowing that as in terms of traveling, as putting money somewhere, as supporting an economy, as enabling someone else to put food on their table, I definitely want that, the power of that to be in Africa. I want that to happen to me in Africa. But now, post COVID-19, it's definitely the time when we are going to need, like we are going, you know how people are always saying, oh, let's buy, we need to buy black, we need to have a township economy. Tourism in Africa needs to be that. We are going to be the ones who must travel this continent because we understand more than ever that we need to rebuild, that we need to get the different economies moving again, but we need to get people who are in informal employment getting some money again. It's easy to become a tour guide. So let's say you're unemployed. we live in Stone Town. You can just get up and go hustle, sell some art. I'll become a tour guide. I'll become a fixer for travelers and stuff. Than it is to say, I'm unemployed. Let me go stand in a government line and look for help there. Likely not to get.
Absolutely. I mean, you touch on some very, very you spot on. All the points that you have made there are spot on, because I remember even just traveling to Kenya. So when I traveled to Kenya, a friend of mine had moved there, right? And so the first time was going there for New Year's to celebrate with her, and then there's I went several times, and then one time was to go and learn, do a second yoga teaching course in Kenya. And I think they're really doing a lot. It's very interesting to see when you go to a country that has a very different perspective to the South African perspective, because it gives you time to really check yourself, because and the things that make up your thoughts around who you think you are and how you see things. Because when I was in Nairobi is it's I'm coming in through border control, right? I arrived, and it was quick, it was fast, and it was jumbo, and I was like, hey, and they're like, South Africa, welcome, my sister, and I was like, woo, in the hizzy. I felt like a mini celebrity. But it was really fun, quick and easy. They didn't even, they were like, where are you going to be staying? I had the address. Awesome, you must have a good time. And that was it. Oops, I was in the country. And the whole experience was just phenomenal. It really was a phenomenal experience. But what I keep on wanting to ask you there, you were talking about Egypt. I want to know, what is it about Egypt that just has you wanting to go back?
It's a childhood fantasy. Oh my God. So I absolutely love anthropology and archaeology. Absolutely love them. Absolutely, absolutely love them. To a point where I want to go back to varsity and study either or, right? So now I'm confused. I'm like, so many loves, so little time. Can't you design something just for me? But the reason I love Egypt so much was that I thankfully didn't grow up in a religious family. So like I know my grandmother used to go to church all the time and things like that. But in terms of my mom and my dad as their family unit, separate from the extended family, there was definitely no religion in our lives. And so I didn't have biblical references of places, I only had scholarly references. So when I was 8 or 9, we went to Saturday school, and a teacher came in to teach about ancient Egypt. And it was the first time I heard that there's something called the Great Pyramids of Egypt, and the Sphinx. And these people had a language of their own, the alphabet of their own, everything that they did. And not only did they exist, some of it is still left over in this place called Egypt. If only I could get myself to Egypt, then I don't have to see these things as posters, I can really feel them. I can touch them. I can stand and be in that moment. And I remember thinking, I didn't go to class. I didn't go to break that day, lunch break. I just there helping her unpack and pack up and thinking to myself, one day I will go to this Egypt. I will go see this thing. And then of course you discover that there's more than one artifact. There's like a million, and there's so many of them, and they're scattered all over the world, scattered all over Africa. Then I wanted to get to know them, but more than any other place, Egypt. When I'm there, I'm like 8 years again. I'm 8 years. I'm like, wow, you can shape your reality. Wow, dreams come true because you take them and you put them in your hands, and you and I'm like, I'm inside the pyramid. It feels so at once. It makes the world feel small and yet big. Because I know what I was wearing that day, right? I had this garish pink set that my mom, was it garish? Probably not, but it was pink, very, very pink, and it had polka dots, right? And I liked wearing it. It had lady short pants and a t-shirt, and that's what I was wearing this day. And that school wasn't the school that I usually went to. It was a high school in a different part of our township. So even years later, whenever I drive past that spot, and I'm like, oh, there's that high school, my heart gets grew inside. And I remember, wow, one Saturday I came here, and when I walked out, I didn't realize that I was never the same, but I walked out having found myself without even looking, without even knowing that such a thing as a destination, as a journey of discovery to who you are. And I found it, and I believed it so much that it became my life, it became my world, it became my reality. Also Egypt, because it is so well preserved and so well archived. When I went to Sudan, I was constantly frustrated by the lack of information. Sudan, a lot of a lot of in fact, Sudan predates Egypt in terms of the pyramids, in terms of all that culture. But because it's not well preserved, right? If you go to Meroe, which has more than 200 pyramids, no one knows exactly where the rest are. The ones on the outskirts of town, yeah, they'll tell you. If you call someone randomly, a friend, and be like, hi, I'm calling you. Do you know where I'm in Meroe? Do you know where I can start looking for this thing? They won't know. And if you know and you find out where it is, when you get there, it's just blank things looking back at you because there's no information written down. There's no way for you to know that. So the thing that I appreciate with ancient Egypt is that the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities has made sure that this is information that you're able to understand in several languages, and that the museum is well archived and well curated, so that even 1,000 years from now, people can still walk through them and you will know, versus interacting with such rich heritage and being left with 1,000,001 questions because no one knows. Do I have to go see a professor of anthropology at the university and have them articulate this to me, which is what I did. I just showed up at someone's anthropology class, like, hi, sorry to disturb you, but find anything.
I love that. Couldn't find anything, so I'm here to learn. Thanks.
So yeah, okay, let's take it. So with Sudan, they had a pamphlet and it was written in Mandarin. So if I spoke Mandarin or could read Mandarin, I would have some clue. I still wouldn't know, but I would have some clue, right? And then it got me thinking that actually the challenge with intra-African travel is that also the people who make decisions around travel and tourism and how to experience it are not thinking about us. I doubt that they travel Africa themselves. I really doubt that they travel Africa for leisure, not because of their position, not with their blue light. Because I think if they did, they would make changes that make experiencing this continent easier. So, for instance, you would think about something as simple as access to information. You and I think about it a lot because information is part of how we experience and discover places. So, to not have information available is it doesn't say anything. It means I've seen, but I can't talk about it because I still know as much as what's on Google.
Yeah.
So I can't now turn into an ambassador for this destination on my platform. And then also it means that certain problems that we keep experiencing are not going to change. And this is very important. It has to be part of the Tabari Kenya tourism, right? Africa needs to be for African as a destination. I hope
for us, you said Africa needs to.
Africa as a destination needs to be for Africans. So the CEO of South African tourism must at this point be saying to himself, it is now more than ever so important that South African immigration stops being xenophobic and that when people land at the airport, they have a pleasant experience. Because airport is never a pleasant experience. Arriving from outside the country with other people in the same plane and having to split into that South African line and the line that's for non-South Africans. Sure, do that if you want to, but treat people with dignity and respect. Let people be happy to arrive. You know how you arrived in Kenya and you felt welcomed?
Yes, I did.
That thing does not exist at the airport. It really doesn't for me. But I did it. you're traveling by land and you stuck a big bridge for like ever because and it's so long. Little things like that. Like, what would it take? What would it kill the gatekeepers of travel and tourism on this continent to make it, to package it in such a way that it favors us as well? Kenya as a destination fascinates me because I love Kenya so much. Also, it was the thing you mentioned, like you go to Nairobi and you're like, yes, this man. I just love everything here. I keep going to Kenya. I keep going to Kenya, but I've actually never experienced the Masai Mara, and I've never experienced some of the top experiences in Kenya because they recognize that Kenyans and East Africans do not afford to pay the dollar rate, and they cater to that. But they don't recognize that, oh, for LERATO to travel Africa, actually, she's doing it because she loves it, but she's also doing it because it's a political statement. It's a statement on her identity. She will not go and spend cheaply elsewhere if she wants to spend in Africa first, right? But you can't, because if you want the best, it's expensive, and that is an issue because again it perpetuates a certain stereotype, right? And the stereotype is that traveling is out of bounds unless you have money. That is not the case. Sometimes you can just save and experience that. Sometimes you can afford to travel once every 3 years. That is also fine, right? But what incentive, what motivation is there for me to save my money for 2.5 years to say I'm going somewhere? And when the time comes, what incentive is there for me to choose Africa if when I land at a certain African country, I'm still paying so much through, just bleeding money because you have to compete at the dollar rate and all those other rates. Whereas if you went to Bali for 15,000, you could have all, including swimming platters, really amazing lifestyle content too, right? So I really think travel and tourism decision makers in Africa need to start recognizing the true potential of the industry and not talk about it in terms of figures and potential, but in terms of solutions and what they are going to do to make sure that we feel welcome traveling around the continent. I know when I travel that you will welcome me as someone, this is your country, you welcome me, but to Kruger National Park, and now I suddenly need to pay like, I don't know how much it costs now, but let's say I have to pay $300. It's a bit expensive if I earn in shillings.
Yeah. So in South Africa, right, Kruger National Park is actually super reasonable for foreign nationals. It's still within the same rand amount as it's a bit more. So maybe if it's 100 rand for me, it's 100 rand, 150 for someone who's non-African, right? But still, that price is so cheap in comparison to paying $80. I almost said 80,000, but $80 to get into Lake Nakura. I was like, 80,000. I mean, see, it got dumped, but I still feel like it's 80,000 instead of feeling like it's within my range, So that was a serious issue because I was like, how come? I mean, I'm an African. Surely there should be an AU rate for all Africans.
There should be.
Vic Falls, there's a SADC rate. There's a SADC rate at Vic Falls. I think it's $10.
Yeah.
So right now, it's what? 20 Rand to go into, not 20 Rand. Woo! The math girl just went out the window. It's 200 Rand for me to go into Vic Falls. And I would pay that 200 Rand willingly, still within the range. But as soon as you make it 80, 40 even, 40 even, never mind.
And you know who suffers? The person who suffers is the guy who sells art and craft outside those tourist areas, because you have definitely exhausted your budget, and it's such an important thing. I keep harping on about it in different ways and platforms, and everyone probably thinks, hey, find something to talk about, right? But this is so important. I've been traveling for more than 10 years, and the people, definitely, I know I'm welcome, I know I'm home. But when it comes to experiencing the best of what the country has to offer in terms of tourism, then I'm just like scrambling for bottom of the barrel, because I must think, well, it's good and grand that I'm here, but can I really afford to spend 30,000 rand at a game for 5 days of a game drive, even though it's the best in the world, should it not be accessible by any other means other than having to hire out a driver for, let's say, $200? So little things are gonna matter. And the reason they need to matter is that Kenya has been through this exercise before, apparently, when they started realizing remember when the American embassy was bombed a long time ago, after the American embassy was bombed, and then there was a travel advisory issued. Tourism Kenya realized that they needed to promote domestic travel, right? So they started doing away with all these barriers. The first one was financial, but then they also allowed access. Schools could take kids there in a bus. So there are other ways of access now. You can just show up and get to enjoy the experience. And those are going to be very important, because do you think what will you be looking for after COVID-19 when you're traveling? I'm going to be looking for, I want to know, is this place safe? Do they have good health infrastructure?
What you call this, in terms of cleanliness. Cleanliness is going to become a huge
it's going to be extreme. And another thing that I really want to know, so this is a challenge I need to wrap my head around, is, do you have good health infrastructures? And unfortunately, the continent doesn't. So I feel like there's a level where the tourism industry around this continent needs to convince us to travel, not through nice campaigns that are nice to watch on YouTube and make us feel all nice and warm fuzzy inside, but they must see they must see the faith that we put in our own continent when we travel. They must see particularly how with our book, Michelle, with those who travel with themselves, with Vagabond, with so many other things, even with digital platforms, YouTube channels, they must see how intentional we are about demystifying Destination Africa. And the narrative has changed completely from, let's say, 10 years ago, when so many of us were traveling. And you see it's these blogs by non-Africans and Westerners, and they come in with certain defined stereotypes that you could read a post about a place. They will all not feel safe. If they're women alone, they will all not feel safe, whether they were truly in danger or not, you never know. But to be in Africa is to not feel safe. After all, I'm a woman alone. Why would I feel safe in Africa? Africans must have tried to swindle me. You couldn't buy. They tried to swindle you. So little things like that. Because we're traveling and we have our own platforms and our own digital channels, and we're writing our realities as Africans. You see how we're making it a proper, we like Destination Africa. This is where you want to be. This is your bucket. If what you want to go somewhere and launch yourself as an Instagram travel star, here you want to go somewhere and eat because you're a foodie, Africa has to offer it. You love nature, it offers. And that is hard work done by the community. And leaders need to be part of the work that's been done. We can't keep encouraging people to travel only for when people travel, they get there and like, oh, hang on. But they didn't tell me that for me to experience this amazing thing, I needed to also save another $800. And if I'm saying, if I'm paying $800 to do one thing, and then I must still pay my accommodation, still pay my flight, still my pay that, why can't I just split that into two holidays in Asia?
Because and that's why it's so hard to contend against Asia, because one, we as you say, people in charge need to really take into the consideration, because when people talk about domestic tourism, they really talk about it as this high level dropping numbers, these high numbers, like we want to get this many and we want to get that many, and then you say, okay, on the ground, how are you going to do this? then all you're getting is people throwing problems at you. This doesn't work this way, and that, this, that, and then this. And that's where it comes in, is that if you haven't taken the time yourself to really mystery shop your own country and
Right.
understand what would make this easy for me, if I put myself in a person who hasn't necessarily traveled before, what would make my life easier? You know, how
Mm.
can I break it down? I was chatting to a guy who's started off as a what you call this, a truck conductor, right? Truck conductor, and that's how he started seeing the rest of the continent, because he used to travel, um, transporting goods to different countries.
Yeah.
And he says he sees spots and say, "Oh, I want to go back there." So he eventually realized that really the cheese boy within him, and he has this deep underlying side that really wants to explore the full possibilities that lie around for him. He calls it the cheese boy in him, but I think it's exploring the full possibilities of who he could be if he really lived up to whatever true potential that he feels exists within him. So, and he really lived up to that. He's now currently finishing off his MBA, but he says as soon as he was able to afford and be able to do things, he went on his first holiday, and he said he walked into like a flight center type place, and he booked his airplane ticket, and he says they asked him window or middle, and he said, I said middle because it sounded safe.
Oh,
But what it brings it down to is that it's these small things that we really take for granted, because you know the choice between aisle or window seat, but we don't think that for a person who's really starting for the first time, what does that mean? So is there spots that a person can actually go to and learn the basics of travel before we even get to being inside the aeroplane and going to Bali?
oh, you know what? I've never thought about it like that, and I think that's how we should actually think about it, from the perspective of someone that never experienced it before. Because then you are definitely going to think about, ask yourself at every point. You'll ask yourself, how will this make them feel? Will they enjoy this? We're going over such a beautiful destination. Wouldn't they want to see it from the air? Or things like that. I think that would be great. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that the default setting is to assume that everyone has experience.
And
Like, yeah.
everyone hasn't. I met a 50-year-old guy on a flight. So I found him seated in my window seat, right? And I was like, sorry, that's my window seat. And I like window for a particular reason. So he says, oh, it's your seat. And I said, yes, it's my seat. And he looked at me like, and I said to him, so can I see your seat stub? And then he handed it over to me, and I said, okay, you're supposed to be in the middle. I'm in the window. And he said, oh, okay. And so he moves over, right? And I get to my window seat. And he says, I thought we could just sit anywhere. So I'm like, oh, this guy's a chancer. Chances are he knows exactly. He's just
Yeah.
trying to, you know, pull at my heartstrings. Anyways, the meal comes, and I start realizing he didn't know what you call this, the tray, to
Yeah.
look the tray down, right? So I realized, okay, first timer here. I felt so bad. I was like, why didn't you just tell me it's your first time flying so I can just give you the window seat so you can experience this?
Yeah.
I just assumed because of his age that he's
Yeah.
definitely done it before. So he's just trying to play games with me. And so mid flight, after having our meals, we swapped over so that he could sit
Yeah.
and see what it feels like. And I thought, sometimes we don't ask that question, and there's nowhere on the website where you can say first timer.
Have I? Yeah.
You know,
But you know what I do? I actually do that when with the trips that I now have to suspend. But
Yeah.
after everyone has registered and paid their deposit, now I know they're serious, so I can like start personalizing it. I actually have like I create personalized menus within the group experience. So I create personalized menus. If you like yoga, for instance, I'll find yoga studios. I'll tell you, go do this, your free time, all of those things. But then another thing I ask is, have you traveled or have you been to West, wherever we're going? Have you traveled before? Have you been here before? What are some of your anxieties around travel?
Yeah.
I think also that people have anxiety. So what
Yes,
I'm
people
doing,
do.
and I'm no longer dismissing them a little. Okay, I'm dismissing them completely. But
That's really good because I think that's the thing. Then it really creates a safety for that person because you don't feel as silly when you ask a question. You don't
yeah,
feel like this is something that everybody has been doing, so you should just know how to do it.
yeah, I think it's very important. But with things around flying, because they're so special, like I never forget the first time I flew, the first time I
Mhm,
saw them for the first time, the first time I went, you know what I mean? Just that
mhm.
that excitement. And it's something that if you could, you would bottle it and be like, here, it's yours. Like when people go to Ghana for the first time, I feel like taking a feeling and bottling it and be like, here, I hope you experience Ghana and that it will be to you what it was to me. Because for me, it was informational. It completely changed my life. Whereas the people that I was traveling with hated Accra. They're like, oh,
Yeah,
can't wait to leave this place. But as for me, I was like, what do you mean you can't wait to leave? I can't wait to come back. And why would you hate it? And they couldn't
yeah,
pinpoint it. But I really think looking back, it's lack of travel experience. It's lack of travel experience, and also it's the problem with media trips is that they tick boxes, but they're not necessarily about experience driven. So you must submit this scope, you must do this, you must do that, but you're not,
you're not
everybody.
having
Yes,
experience.
yeah,
You're
like
not immersing yourself.
it's not immersive. So I think that's the thing that put them off, because I kept on thinking, how can you hate? Yes, I know different points of view, but Accra is so. That trip to Accra was so important in my life, just 4 days, and we all spent them together. Those 4 days, we were going to these places together. What do you mean? This thing that I'm feeling that's making me change my life? You're not,
Mhm.
And I realized that actually it's because people don't just lack of experience, and I don't know, sometimes it has to do with expectations. So I
Mhm.
think sometimes when we travel, we don't necessarily aim to discover. We go
Yeah.
there with this, then we already say, okay, so at 10 o'clock I'm going to go to this restaurant, just like
Mhm.
taking leaves very little room for experience, which then I
Yeah.
get makes it feel like a passing thing. You were there for like a few days, then came back.
Yeah. And then when you talk about it, of course, it just becomes a situation of, yeah, it was okay, yeah, I've been there, nothing. And that's the thing, because I don't think, I really cannot think of a place that I've gone to where I was like, oh, yeah, it was okay. Like, I literally have fun because I look for it. I expect to have fun. I
Yeah.
expect to meet new people I've never met before. I expect to learn something.
Yeah.
So, and this curiosity, I've been a curious child my whole entire life. So when I meet people, and especially for me, the ultimate is if I connect with people. If I'm connected with people, then woo, that's the best trip ever. But that feeling of warmth when people receive you well is the best feeling, and that for me is half of the experience.
It really
So, but it requires you to avail yourself as well to the
have to.
opportunity. So if you
You,
keep yourself closed off, then you're not going to have that experience.
I think this is another reason why generally I prefer traveling alone or with
Mhm.
people in my life. I don't travel with everyone in my life, right? I
Mhm.
only travel. travel like me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I expect that I'm going to have surprises and miracles, that I'm going to be on an adventure. I always say this to people, the reason I love traveling is actually not the bigger picture. Yes, I get to see a place. Yes, I get to connect to places and stories that have long fascinated me. But it's the moment that you almost can't travel for. You can't travel for someone to stop you as you're walking down the street and invite you for tea. Either it happens or not. But those moments, surrender to them. And next thing you know, your entire plan has changed because you met this lady and she said to you, there's no point in not going to a certain village on the coast. Once you go there, you get the best tuna of your whole life. And because you love there, and it turns out she was not wrong, and you discover something.
Yeah. And that's the thing, and that's something only a local would know. It's like, for me, right? I love the Mauritian roti. The Mauritian roti is the best. I haven't been to Mauritius yet, but I love their roti so much that I'm just like, I can't wait to go to, the actual, not the resort, but where the people live, the hustle and
That's
bustle.
the one that like cooked by some mama out by the stoop, oil that has seen
Yeah,
like a bit of light.
that's
Those moments, eh?
that's Mauritius I want, Mama. Oh my
Oh, that's
God.
really
I tell you, Lerato, one last one for the road before we close off this session. For people who would love to participate in your trips, I know you're on Instagram. If you can please share your handle, and also where can they get more information about your trips? Do you have perhaps a website or a Facebook page? Um,
okay. Um, the best way to find me is on social media, on Facebook, Insta, and Twitter. I'm Madame Africa. My Africa is
mhm,
written with a K. That's the best bet. I don't have a website yet. I don't want to do a website just yet, just because it's a this year I was just going to do 2 capsule events,
mhm,
but subsequently cancelled. So now I've just put everything on pause. I'm still finalizing some experiences. I'm still planning some trips. I'm still in contact with my partners in Egypt, in Zanzibar, in Ethiopia, in Nigeria, Benin, and Accra. But I think for now, the best thing to do would be just follow me on social media and we can always interact. And the reason I've deprioritized trips for now is that I want to see other things as well before I can start saying we are doing group travels again. I want to know, are these destinations travel ready? The hotels that I was going to reach out for. Previously, you just needed to find a hotel that's beautiful, that has hot water, that has great service and great location. Now I want to know, do you sanitize? That is so
mhm,
important to me. I actually will not go to a place that doesn't sanitize. I want to know, do you sanitize places?
mhm.
Are we only coming here to get good memories and that's it?
Yeah.
So so that means to just take a step back.
But I get what you say when you say we can't need to just get good memories straight.
Yeah. So I've had to take a step back and see how different countries are going to respond. Like as it is at the moment, I'm slightly worried about like Madagascar because
Yeah.
it's one of the things for they have a nice festival of the dead that I want to curate. But now the president, the prime minister doesn't seem to be taking COVID-19 seriously. um, Still he's not doing things that would make me believe he's taking it seriously. So a place like that, if someone says, oh, pray or drink a concoction, you wonder, are they really going to sanitize places? Are these things going to be a priority and will they be in place? So for now, it really has been about let's reminisce through our travel stories, let's dream and fantasize about destinations to keep ourselves.
Mhm.
But when it is time to curate again, I will relaunch everything anew. But the reason I can't do that now is because a very big part of me knows unless I can guarantee that people are not going to come back with anything, I'm not going to create these trips. And the only way for me to guarantee is down the line when I see how different governments are responding to COVID-19 in the long term. And most importantly, after the worst of the outbreak passes and we can't be hidden forever, what are you then doing? So it's almost like starting over. It's
So
a big
essentially saying to countries out there, look, y'all, I'm keeping tabs.
They
I want to
better.
see if you guys are serious about this, because that's going to determine whether I'm doing business with you or not.
Listen, they have to. They really, really have to. But in particular, Africa, tourism. Tourism. We were the second growing region, I think. You know, it's a lot. It's a big deal. You know, it really is a big deal. And a part of it being such a big deal is really it's so accessible to people. You know, it really, really is accessible. And because of that, governments need to take it seriously, and governments sure that the thing that we love more than traveling is being alive to be able to travel. So we are not going to go to places where there are no health and safety measures in place. And that is like a bit of a scary prospect for me, because it literally means all the monies I had counted go, all my profit, all my hustle, everything, non-existent and starting over. But excited about it. Definitely excited about it. There'll be more. You know, I still want to travel. I want to go to other parts of the continent I haven't visited before. I want to rewrite conflict zones. I want to see how countries are building themselves after conflict and wars, and I guess our outbreaks. So I definitely still want to travel.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time and for chatting to us. I could chat to you for another 2 hours. So
thank you so much. Yeah.
I'm going to call you again and say, look, let's continue our conversation. But I look forward to putting this out there. And thank you for making the time to chat to us, my fellow sister in travel.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care. See you soon. Okay.